So for full context, we were running a little bit late today. Completely my fault. So I stayed over in New Jersey because I absolutely hate driving back from MetLife Stadium. It would have been 4 hours home. It was a little over 2 hours today. And I don't know why I keep doing this to myself, Anthony. Year after year, I go to these stupid games at the god awful, disgusting air conditioning unit of a stadium, sit out in the rain for 8 hours and don't see a touchdown. Like, I can't tell you how often that's happened to me over the last, like this past year. Then last year I went to the Chargers game where they got embarrassed on Monday night. Year before that, the home opener in the rain against the Ravens, where they score one garbage time touchdown at the end with Joe Flacco. I watched Zach Wilson throw 4 interceptions in his home debut the year before that. Like, why do I keep going to these stupid fucking games at that awful stadium? I don't know why I do it to myself. And just a horrible, horrible, horrible effort against a team that you absolutely needed to beat.
I mean, it was embarrassing. You're right. Like, why go to these games when this is the product that the Giants and the Jets both still keep putting on the field week in and week out? It's been years of this misery. And just when we think it's going to finally turn around for the Jets, they bring us crashing back down to reality. They remind us that this is the New York Jets team that has embarrassed their fans for so long. And that really was the best word that I could use to describe the performance of the Giants on Thursday and the performance of the Jets yesterday. Just embarrassing. Whether you want to talk about defensive lapses, whether you want to talk about poor coaching, or just an offense that could put anyone to sleep, it was embarrassing for the Jets yesterday.
Yeah, so I wanted to pull up the box score numbers. The Jets lost 10-9. They had a chance to hit a game-winning field goal at the end. It would have been a 12-10 game as their line sent it wide, which I guess is fitting. One, because they didn't deserve to win that game. They played horrible. But two, he struggled in the preseason. He missed a kick last week and then missed a kick as well this week. But I feel like I'm living in a loop of 2022 and 2023. I mean, this Jets defense, they held a quarterback in Bo Nix to 60 passing yards. He averaged 2.4 yards per attempt. He didn't hit a pass over 10 yards in the first half. They were not good enough against the run, and that ended up costing them. But still, if your defense is allowing 10 points in a game, you can't lose that game. They didn't get in the end zone. They settled for 3 field goals. And to me, the biggest story from this game is I've tried my best to be as patient with Robert Saleh as humanly possible. He's dealt with absolutely horrific quarterback play in his first 3 years. But when you have 10 days off and you are 8-point favorites at home, and to come out with this effort is just an abomination. They were penalized 13 times in this game. That you can't beat anyone that way. Offensively, not good enough. Breece Hall was garbage in this game. 10 carries for 4 yards, had a dropped pass as well. Garrett Wilson, another quiet day, 5 catches for 41 yards. Rodgers' stat line wasn't all that great. He was sacked 5 times, threw for 225 yards on 42 attempts. You know, I don't get why you're down on the goal line. You don't give Braylon Allen the ball once. You drafted, a 240-pound running back in the 4th round. You're not going to use him on the 1-yard line to try to punch it in. Instead, you try to get cute and throw a pass to Solomon fucking Thomas. Like, what are we doing here, man? Like, it's just, I don't get how unprepared this coaching staff is week after week.
Yeah, I don't get it either. And I'm not going to try and sit here and be like, hey, I was right, or pat myself on the shoulder, because this isn't something I'm happy about. But I will just say, all offseason long, we talked about the talent across this roster and how this team just has players and stars all over the place. But the one question mark that I continue to have was the coaching staff. Can they maximize this talent? Can they utilize it properly? Or will they make stupid decisions and mistakes that cost them games? Namely, Nathaniel Hackett was my chief person that I was concerned about. Is he going to make some stupid calls like the one you just described to Solomon Thomas on the goal line? Like, that's a coach straight up just holding a team back. And that's going to end up being the story of this season for this Jets team if they don't make a turnaround. It's going to be, what a roster with so much talent that just got wasted. And again, that was my chief concern going into this year. I thought things were on the up and up after that excellent win over the Patriots. Aaron Rodgers looked like he was having a second prime. third prime, if you want to argue with that, seemed like him and Garrett Wilson were finally getting on the same page, and the offense looked like it had a dynamic attack in their backfield with both Brees Hall and Braylon Allen. Then it all came crashing back down to earth, and we saw prime Nathaniel Hackett ball. That's exactly what we saw against his old team, no less. So it was supposed to be this revenge rivalry kind of game here. You got Zach Wilson on the other sideline doing nothing, but you have Hackett going up against his former team that he was the worst head coach in history for, and he just falls flat on his face and shows everybody why he got fired from that job so quickly. So it's just an overall embarrassing display from Hackett and the Jets offense, and that's really who I give primary blame to. I give him the ownership of this loss more so than anybody because, like you said, the Jets, they held Bo Nix and the Broncos offense in check. They should have been able to win that game, but when your offense turns in a performance like that and some of those decisions that Hackett was making result the way that they do, who else can you blame except for the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, he has no idea how to use this personnel, and it's so annoying and so frustrating. Again, like they kept trying to run Brees Hall, and it was clearly not his day as he averaged under a yard per carry. But Braylon Allen averaged over 4 yards a carry, 8 carries for 34 yards. Not that it's like some stellar performance, but they were unable to move the ball in the first half. And again, like you have a beautiful opportunity, you're down on the goal line and you run with Brees Hall twice for no gain. Then you have a rollout to Solomon Thomas, which shockingly doesn't work. And then guess what? A penalty backs you all. They were going to go for it on fourth down, and then a pre-snap penalty. The number of pre-snap penalties in this game is just another thing that stands out. And you can't win in the NFL with those kinds of issues. I don't care. It doesn't matter who you're playing. It doesn't matter if the opposing quarterback throws for 60 yards in the game. You're still going to lose. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. And this has been an issue for Robert Saleh his entire tenure here. We were getting quotes in 2021 when they were, one of the more penalized teams. And it's, oh, we got, it's something that we got to figure out. These pre-snap penalties, shooting ourselves in the foot. This is year 4 of this same thing. And it's not the same roster. Like you could say in 2021 that team was not good enough. They were not talented enough to be competitive. But the talent that's been introduced to this team over the last 2 or 3 years, they should be better than this. Like I don't know where else the blame can go other than the coach for not holding these guys accountable, and this still being an issue for this team all these years later.
Yeah, and it's like you said, with the overchanging of the roster, more experienced quarterback under center, who do you blame? And we're also now through 4 weeks of the season. We're past the point where we can use the preseason as an excuse, right? The lack of playing time to the starters. That was something that we brought up through the first couple of games of the season, said this team looks really rusty and sloppy. Maybe they should have played more in the preseason. Well, now it's 4 weeks. Not an excuse anymore. The preseason is 3 weeks as it is. In the past, it used to be 4 weeks. So by now, everything should be ironed out, and this team should be hitting its stride, and it should be not it shouldn't be shooting itself in the foot anymore, and it still is. So why is that the case? Who is to blame? Again, I think you have to stare at the coaching staff and hand them the majority of this blame, but at the same time I also think that we're seeing a shocking lack of chemistry between Rodgers and some of his playmakers. It seems like there are many times where he wants to throw the back shoulder fade, and these receivers are just running go balls, and they're not even turning around and seeing the ball come in. There just seems to be something lacking in the communication department. I think that's affecting the pre-snap. I think that's affecting the post-snap and everything in between and surrounding. So I don't know exactly what the solution is there, but something has to get ironed out within the communication of the offense as well.